Why can't you tickle yourself? Seriously. Another person pokes your ribs and you fold like cheap lawn furniture. You poke your own ribs and nothing. It feels like pressing your own elevator button. Functional, sad, weirdly bureaucratic. The obvious suspect is your fingers. Maybe they lack surprise. Maybe your armpit has trust issues. But the real villain is higher up. Your brain, it cheats. Before your fingers even land, your brain has already spoiled the ending. It predicts the touch, lowers the volume, and basically tells your skin, relax, this one's from us. Which is hilarious because your own nervous system is acting like a bouncer, turning you away from your own party. And once you see that, the scary question appears. If your brain edits this, what else is it secretly editing? This is not some tiny, useless quirk of biology. It is survival software. Your nervous system has one job that sounds simple and is absolutely not simple. Figure out what came from you and what came from the outside world. Because those are not equal. If every brush of your sleeve felt as urgent as a spider landing on your neck, your life would be a full-time emergency. Your ancestors had enough problems. Wolves, weather, questionable berries. They did not need their own elbow causing fake breaking news every 4 seconds. So the brain prioritizes surprise. Unexpected signals matter more than expected ones. A branch scraping your arm, a hand on your shoulder, something moving where nothing should move. Tickling turns out to be a weird little doorway into a much bigger rule. The brain cares less about sensation than about prediction errors. The brain does not sit there like a customer service desk waiting for signals to arrive. It guesses first, then checks the receipts. In neuroscience, this idea shows up as a forward model. When you decide to move, your brain sends the motor command to your muscles, but it also sends a copy of that command somewhere else. A little internal memo. This is called an efference copy, or corollary discharge if you want to sound expensive at dinner. That copy lets the brain predict what the movement should feel like before it happens. Where the touch will land, how strong it will be, when it will arrive. Sarah-Jayne Blakemore, Daniel Wolpert, and Chris Frith helped make this famous with actual experiments, not just extremely confident chalkboards. The basic idea is brutal. If your brain already knows the plot twist loses its job. Think about how much your body touches itself all day. Your shirt rubs your skin, your hair taps your forehead, your feet hit the floor, your arms swing, your jaw moves. You are basically a walking percussion section. If the brain treated all of that as equally important, your attention would shatter like a cheap phone screen. So it filters. Hard. Expected sensations get turned down. Unexpected sensations pop out like a fire alarm in a library. That difference is not a luxury feature. It is how you notice what matters. A mosquito on your ankle. Someone behind you. A branch that is not a branch. Okay, but this also creates your sense of control. When the sensory result matches the motor plan, your brain says, yes, that was me. When it does not match, now we have a situation. Now for the fun part. Actual humans in labs doing things that sound fake. In one classic line of experiments, Sarah-Jayne Blakemore and colleagues asked people to move a device that produced a touch on their own hand. Sometimes the touch happened exactly when expected. Sometimes there was a small delay. Sometimes the setup altered the movement-to-touch relationship. And suddenly, the touch felt more ticklish when prediction broke. Not because the finger changed, because the brain lost its cheat sheet. Wait, what? Tiny timing error was enough to make self-produced touch feel more external. That is wild. Your brain is so picky that a slight mismatch can flip a sensation from boring to interesting. The whole system is like your friend who swears they know a song, then misses one beat and starts dancing like a confused office printer. Picture the experiment like a tiny psychological thriller. White lab room, quiet enough to hear a chair creak. A participant sits with one hand hidden. The other hand grips a little lever. They push forward. Somewhere out of sight, a soft piece of foam taps their palm. Tap, tap, tap. At first, nothing dramatic. Their face says, yes, this is a hand touching a hand. Everybody calm down. Then the researchers add a delay, just a fraction of a second. Same foam, same skin, same person. But now the participant flinches and laughs, like their own body has become suspicious of itself. That is the magic trick. The sensation did not become stronger in the world. It became less predicted in the brain. Same touch, different story. Your nervous system is basically directing a movie and deciding which scene gets jump scare music. Timing obsession shows up everywhere. Daniel Wolpert's work on motor control pushed the same deeper idea. Movement is messy, slow feedback is a problem, and the brain survives by predicting consequences ahead of time. If you had to wait for every sensory update before acting, you would move like a badly buffered live stream. That is not ideal when catching a ball or not falling down stairs. So the brain forecasts. It estimates what should happen, then compares prediction to reality. Fine. Big mismatch, attention goes boom. Tickling is just the adorable version of this. Underneath the joke is a hard engineering problem. How does a squishy biological machine tell self-caused noise from outside-caused danger fast enough to be useful? Answer: by being a paranoid statistician with excellent reflexes and zero patience for sensory nonsense. And humans are not special snowflakes here. Weakly electric fish do a version of this too, which is rude because now fish are in on the joke. These animals generate electric fields to sense the world. But if they reacted equally to the signals produced by their own body, their internal radar would be full of self-made spam. Research by scientists like Curtis Bell showed they suppress predictable self-generated input, making unexpected changes stand out. Same logic, different hardware. Instead of fingers and ribs, it is electric pulses in dark water. Nature keeps reusing this trick because it works. Flies do versions of sensory prediction. Crickets do it with sound from their own chirps. Your brain is not doing a quirky human thing. It is using one of biology's favorite hacks. If you can predict your own noise, you can save your panic for the stuff trying to eat you. The twist gets serious. If the brain normally tags sensations as self-generated using prediction, what happens when that tagging goes wrong? Chris Frith and others propose that problems with this system may help explain certain symptoms in schizophrenia, especially around agency, the feeling that I caused this action or thought. This is not a cute tickle fact anymore. This is about how the brain builds ownership. Some studies suggest that when predictions about self-generated actions are less reliable, sensations or thoughts may feel less like they belong to the self. That does not mean tickling explains schizophrenia. Absolutely not. The brain is not a TikTok infographic. But the same basic mechanism matters on a much bigger scale. The line between me and not me is not painted on the universe. Your brain keeps redrawing it, moment by moment, with predictions and comparisons. This is also why self-surprise is so hard. You can try weird timing. You can use tools. You can set up little tricks. But the moment your brain can model the pattern, the effect starts shrinking again. It learns. Fast. Like an annoying student who somehow studied before the exam. The brain is constantly compressing regularity. If you move your own hand toward your skin, the sensory system already begins discounting the expected result. That is why self-touch often feels weaker than identical external touch. It is not that the skin lies, it is that the brain grades on a curve. The predicted stuff gets less credit. Unexpected input gets extra attention. So no, your failure to tickle yourself is not a personal flaw. It is a sign your nervous system is doing quality control with the attitude of an airport security agent at 5 a.m. Here is the part that messes with your head in a fun, legally safe way. Tickling reveals that perception is not raw reality entering your skull like mail through a slot. It is edited reality, curated, prejudged. Your brain combines incoming data with expectation, then hands you the final cut as if it were obvious. Vision works like this, hearing works like this, touch too. The world you feel is partly the world, partly your brain's best guess about the world. Which sounds suspicious until you realize it is the only reason life is manageable. Without prediction, every moment would feel like your first day on Earth. Incredible, also exhausting. So the brain cuts corners. Most of the time brilliantly, sometimes hilariously. Like when it saves you from being tickled by your own fingers, as if your body hired an editor who keeps deleting your blooper scenes. Your ancestors filtered out predictable rustling in their own movement so they could notice the rustling that had teeth. You filter out your hoodie brushing your neck so you can notice your phone buzzing. Evolution loves a rebrand. Same machinery, new nonsense. The system still asks one ancient question all day. Did I cause this or did the world cause this? That matters when driving, typing, walking, or hearing your own voice on a recording and thinking, wait, WHO is that tax-paying goose? Even speech uses prediction. When you talk, your auditory system dampens the expected sound of your own voice. If it did not, conversation would feel louder and stranger than it already is. So yes, the anti-tickle trick lives inside a giant family of anti-Chaos tricks. Homo sapiens escaped lions. You are escaping notifications. The algorithm changed. The nervous system did not. Can you outsmart this? Kind of. Tools help. Delays help. Another person helps most, obviously, because then the prediction gets fuzzier. Robots have even been used to make self-generated touch feel more external by adding spatial or temporal mismatch. Researchers at places like University College London explored exactly that. But fully beating the system is hard because the system is you. You are trying to prank the thing doing the predicting while it is actively watching you set up the prank. Amazing strategy. 10 out of 10. This is like trying to jump scare your own shadow. The more control you have, the less surprise survives. And that is the whole point. The brain is not trying to maximize entertainment. It is trying to minimize confusion. Tickling is just where that policy becomes embarrassingly obvious and weirdly personal. So we return to the annoying little question from the start. Why can't you tickle yourself? Not because your fingers are bad at their job. Not because your ribs lost faith. Because your brain got there first. It predicted the touch, tagged it as self-made, and turned down the signal before the sensation could arrive wearing a fake mustache. That tiny fact opens a huge door. Your brain is not just sensing the world, it is editing it, sorting self from other, guessing ahead, saving your attention for what breaks the script. It's most days that keeps you stable, fast, and not constantly alarmed by your own socks. Sometimes it also means you cannot defeat your own armpit. Tragic, useful, deeply on brand for biology. So yes, your brain ruins tickling. That is exactly how it helps keep you alive.